Most small business owners that I talk to say the exact same thing. We just can't find good people, John. And when we do, we can't keep them around. Does this sound familiar? Here's the truth. The problem, it isn't the talent pool. The problem is the way that most companies, most business owners, and most leaders out there hire and keep your top talent. So this season, season 20, I'm going to show you a better way. It's going to be a human-centered approach that is going to allow you to attract the right people, keep them engaged, and then build that loyalty that's going to last. So if you've been frustrated with turnover, disengagement, or just making hiring mistakes, I have been there. I've done that. My experience as a hiring manager has created a lot of lessons, and I'm going to share them this season. We're going to give you a blueprint that you've been waiting for. Hey everyone, John here. Welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. I help business owners hire and retain talent by building high-performance teams and hiring processes that work. And in this season, that's going to be our focus. We are going to zero in on strategy. We're going to zero in on practical things that you can use to hire the right people the first time. So let's talk about season 20. One, I'm excited. This season opener is a lot of hard work. And as I look back at the previous 19 seasons, this is our 281st episode. It's been a journey. And I want to say thank you. Thank you to all those listeners out there that have stuck with us. We're going to get into some practical strategies this season, and this episode is going to be a recap or really a precursor of what's to come. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you're sharing this channel if it's helpful. All of that helps us be able to continue to do what we do, which is to help others get to where they're going, and it starts with you out there in the Go Be Great community. So let's talk about, why this old way of hiring just isn't working for us. And going back to job postings, it all starts for me when I walk into a business, when I walk into an organization, and they're having trouble hiring. The first question that I ask is, okay, show me what your job posting look like. Show me what your announcement looks like. Who are you hiring for? What do you need? What's the skill set? All of that, right? And what I find is a lot of times the job postings are very generic. They're out there on the web, or they're out there on a social platform. They've been out there for quite some time. And it's this revolving door of people saying they're interested. You actually running through an interview, reviewing their application, and then maybe they make it to hiring and they work out or they don't work out and they're gone within 90 days. That is a cost. That's a cost to you, the business owner. And that's why it's important for us to understand why these hiring strategies, if you build them in to your culture and the foundation of your organization, you're only going to have to hire minimally and you're going to retain maximum. And that's how really, really good business owners grow their business. So the other way that, and I was journaling this morning, I'm like, okay, what are some things, John, that you've seen in working with businesses? The endless job postings, but then what that turns into is high turnover. And high turnover can happen for a lot of reasons. I worked in the service industry. I worked in a restaurant. We had high turnover. Wait staff, kitchen cooks, dishwashers, whatever that looks like. Managers, even in the restaurant. That was a high turnover environment. But I didn't realize that there are restaurants out there that keep their wait staff, that keep their managers. And I've worked with a couple. That wasn't my experience, but what I found out was the high turnover, it's not the industry, it's the business. And so we're going to take a look at that, because the last thing that I had written down here was when you have this endless kind of job posting out there. You're getting high turnover. The good employees, they start to disengage. They start to pull back and they start to look elsewhere. So how can we prevent that? Because in my mind, people are looking for more than just a paycheck. People want a business, a job, whatever you want to call it, an organization that they feel attached to, they feel like they're providing value, and by the way, they get paid pretty well. So don't think that you got to raise your salaries or raise your hourly rates to keep people, because a lot of times that's the wrong motivation. So some applications here that I want you to take away, because I'm always trying to give you practical applications. And if you have a pen and a pencil, write them down. I'm a big journaler. If not, check in the show description below, this episode description. There'll be a link in there, and that link is going to put you on a list to get you all the show notes. We're going to get you all these practical applications. We're going to get you a very high level note on each episode for the week, and it's going to bring a lot of value for you. So 2 things. I want you to look at what your current job postings look like. Pull them down, look at them, evaluate them, see if they're really speaking to the person that you want to hire. If they're just very generic and very vanilla, looking for help in marketing area or looking for someone to come in and organize, kind of an administrative assistant, organize calendars, email help, field calls, you're going to get a lot of interest in those. Instead, in this season, we're going to talk about some specific things that you can embed in your job posting to get the right people. So look at your job postings. What do they look like? And then the second thing is that this is the second one. If maybe 1A and 1B. 1A is the job posting. 1B, what's your onboarding look like? What's that first 30 to 90 days look like in your organization? Depending on the size of your organization, it could be a very short onboarding process. As you grow and as you get a larger organization or a larger business, you need to grow that onboarding. If you are still using the same onboarding template skills that you did when maybe you were a small business and now you're a larger business, we got to look at what that onboarding looks like. So those are the 2 things, the applications that I want you to take a look at. So in this season, we're going to break down what I consider the 4 pillars of hiring and retaining employees. The first one we're going to take a look at is how purpose-driven hiring is not only going to allow the right person to apply, the person that you're looking for, but it's also going to allow you to objectively rank individuals based on what you need. And here, hire for mission fit. I think that's the biggest takeaway when I talk about purpose-driven hiring. Hire for fit, not necessarily skills. Now, I'm saying also skills are important, but they're not the only thing. They're not the highest criteria that I'm always looking for. I would rather hire for fit, somebody who's going to come into the culture. I may have to spend a little bit of time with them to train them up, but I know that they're going to fit into my current culture. If I'm only hiring for skills, I may get somebody who is toxic, who thinks they're better than everybody, or that just doesn't like to play in the same sandbox as everybody. It happens. But as leaders, we got to understand that, we got to see that, and then we got to address it. Or we got to find that individual someplace, right? Someplace else. Because a lot of times when it boils down to it, our business isn't for everybody. But there is someone out there that it is for. So keep that in mind. So purpose-driven hiring, pillar number 1, we'll have 2 to 3 episodes on that, break that down, what that looks like. The second pillar or area that we're going to talk about in this season is employee experience and employee engagement. And, I walk into companies and they have great perks. That's one of the things that they'll show me. They're like, John, we give all these perks. It may be like, working out. You get paid to work out, or you get a lunchroom pass, or, a free lunch every day, or you get the opportunity to telework or work from home. Whatever that looks like, those perks look like, they're not enough. You can have a whole list of perks, and I've seen organizations that have smaller lists but create a culture where people want to stay and they feel like they're adding value to, will out-hire and out-retain any perk that you can name. And it's because when people feel like they belong to something, yeah, those perks are nice, but are they working for you just for those perks? Just for those benefits that you're giving them? Because that's cost. That's a cost to you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and we're striving to keep those costs low, but we're also striving to make sure that people are getting value back. And so, the culture of belonging and growth is going to sustain your organization over offering a lot of perks. So that's the second one, employee engagement and employee experience, and we'll break down what that looks like. I've been on several employee engagement panels, whatever you want to call them, right? Workforce engagement, employee engagement, how to keep people. And Gallup does a lot of studies on this, that engaged employees, they stay longer, they're happier in the workforce, they're able to do their job better, they have better work-life integration, all of the above. So we're going to talk about why that is important and how you can establish that engagement. The third one we're going to talk about is continuous development and growth. When people leave jobs, when they leave companies, when they leave businesses, they cite 2 things. First, leadership, poor leadership. My boss was terrible. It was a toxic environment, whatever that looked like. That's what they cite. Number 1. Number 2, I didn't see myself growing. I didn't see myself staying there. There was no future, right? They use the word future. There wasn't a future for me in that company, in that business, in that organization. And when we show employees that they have a future with us, with our businesses, that we care about, that we sometimes put on our back, and we get through those tough times, the people that stick with us and the people that see a future in the organization, that's when you have found your stride, your rhythm, because that is another level. You're leveling up when you can demonstrate that somebody has a future within your organization. Big pillar, we're going to talk about why offering those continuous growth opportunities and making sure people are getting what they need out of their job. It's not just a one-way street anymore. It needs to be this back and forth conversation, because when you create that conversation, what happens is now I've even found you don't even have to recruit anymore. You can get rid of your job postings, because the word of mouth of the employees within your business, they're going to go find people that you're looking for that integrate into the culture. And hiring now just becomes a simple fact of onboarding. So a lot of things there, continuous development and growth. And then the fourth pillar is this trust and partnership culture. And trust is the foundation of any good organization, any great organization, good to great. And then the retention goes up. When I walk in and I see or I hear or I feel a very high trust culture, I can also look around the room and there will be tenured employees. There will be people who are there because they want to be there. Maybe they could go get a higher salary. But in the end, they're there for the culture. They're there for the fit. So establishing trust, establishing this partnership with your employees, with your team, is going to go a long way in retention, in helping you hire and establish those hiring criteria in order to keep that culture. Okay. So that's the fourth pillar. And when I talk about those 4 pillars, I get very excited. I got goosebumps right now because I have seen organizations that almost about had to shut their doors. They couldn't keep people, and the revolving door was very costly. And so then it impacted customer experience. It impacted your processes and your systems. You couldn't get away. You couldn't take vacations. You started stressing out as an entrepreneur and a business owner. And all of those things just keep snowballing. So in this season, we're going to unpack some of those ways that you can prevent that. And it's not too late. It's never too late. When I walk in the door and I hear, John, you're the last resort, I always step back and I'm like, okay, I'm not here. I can't wave a magic wand and create this culture. It starts with you, it starts with the business owner, but it's not too late. We can start small and it will begin to grow. So these 4 pillars, they're not just theory. I get very practical in these podcasts. And if you've been listening to us for quite some time, you understand that, the 4 pillars for hiring and retention strategy are going to build the foundation. They are going to build a culture where people want to stay. And when I think about jobs, about teams, about organizations and businesses that people are working for, they're there because they want to be there. Yeah, they get a paycheck too. But for the most part, like even if I ask them to come work for my organization or my team, they're like, no, John, I'm good. I'm like, okay. And I respect that because I'll tell you, I want to create that organization and I want to help you be that organization where people, they get offered a job and they're like, you know what? I'm not going to find a better place than right here. The grass isn't always greener. I'm going to stay. So what's the first step? What's the first step we need to take for a better way? Well, I'm going to challenge you, as I always do towards the end of these episodes, and I want you to take one pillar that we're going to talk about over the next 4 weeks. We break these things up into 4-week episodes or 4-week seasons and implement it in the next 30 days. So pick a pillar, one of the 4 that I just overviewed. We'll have an episode on each one, and then cue into that episode for that particular pillar and implement next 30 days. I know all of you can do that because in the end, these strategies, they're not just about hiring and retention. They're about building that workplace, building that business, building that organizations that people talk about. You're going to make people feel a certain way. Do you want to be that business or that organization that makes people feel valued, that makes people feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves, and that makes people stay and work harder? I know you can do it. Stick with us. Make sure you're subscribed. Look forward to seeing everybody in this season. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.